Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Welcome. If it's your first time here, a special welcome to you. And we want to share with you some resources. So if you are new, head over to Facebook and search for the Ninja Selling Podcast. We have an incredible community, crossed over 13,000 members in there who can help you learn more about Ninja, engage about the podcast, or just ask questions in and around real estate. If you're new to Ninja, head over to ninjaselling.com where you can learn about installations. You can learn about coaching, where Garrett and I spend a lot of our time. You can learn about mastery and so much more. And if you are very brand new to Ninja, I highly recommend picking up Ninja Selling by Larry Kendall, where you can learn the entire system. Now, on to our episode with Garrett. He is over in California, and I'm Matt over here in South Carolina. And we got a fun one today. It's a short one, but I think this is important, Garrett, because some people lose sight of these things and we just kind of get caught up in the work. And it's like, wait a minute, we need to take a stop and really understand what this is all for. So good morning, Garrett.
Good morning, sir. And, it's funny as we were kind of getting ready to record today and you're like, you know what, I kind of want to have a chat about our dreams in life and like living life. And you started to share with me, I'm like, that's what we need to record. This is where we need to go. So I love this topic, and I want to go back to where before we hit record.
Yeah.
And you had said what had made or what led you to this idea. So I'm going to throw it right back to you real quick because let's jump right into it.
Yeah. So many of you know, Garrett lives in California. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. And this particular moment was a weekend where Garrett was down racing on a racetrack that was a dream of his to race on. And it wasn't like this was some heavy lift really for him. I mean, he drove his own car. Now, granted, Garrett has modified his car to basically be a race car, but he drove his own car to
My wife told me how much she hated my car last night. We went out to dinner and she said, I'm so happy this car makes you happy because the family hates it. And I said, I don't know what to do with that.
But it's not like you have a special race car sitting in your garage that you trailered out. Like you just drove the car that you drive every day to go to this experience.
We drove it 4.5 hours to a track. Yes.
And that particular weekend, we took our girls down to the beach because we live close to the beach. One of the reasons why we actually moved here, which that's kind of part of this story. And I'm standing there in the ocean, looking out at the ocean, going like, man, this is cool. Like just being able to stand here and look out and just enjoy this moment. And I was thinking, I'm like, and Garrett's out there having a blast driving his car right now too. Well, probably not. You were probably still sleeping because it was the morning time. But I was like, I don't think we often enough taste the dream that we want to have or try to live our freedom right now. We always look for, that's something that we're going to get later on. Now, are there other things that I would like to have? Sure. There are other dreams that Garrett, you have? Sure. And to kind of put this into context too, the whole reason we moved to South Carolina was for a different lifestyle. And when we did it, it was before kids, so it was easier to do. But people thought we were crazy, right? Jen left her job. I left one of my jobs and we just moved. Like, we're just moving. What are you going to do? Well, I mean, I had at the time been working with you of like, all right, well, that's when I started getting into coaching. Jen's like, I'll find another job when we get down there.
Yep.
And we made it work because we wanted to live in a different way. And we live near the beach. What's funny is we haven't been to the beach very often since having kids. And when we were out there, I was just thinking like, gosh, we need to do this more often. And people need to do things like this more often. Easy ways to go access the dream and the freedom that you want to have and figure out a way to build it into your lifestyle. So Garrett, that was the inspiration for this whole thing.
No, and I'm happy we're going down this path because it's funny. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of people that are important to me in my world, and it's funny because we all know our friends that just make things happen. They just go do stuff. They don't wait for it. They don't wait for the right moment, the right time. And it's funny. I've grown into being somebody like that. That's just like opportunity. Let's go. Let's not wait. Let's not hold back. Let's just go and figure it out and let's go do it. Where I have other friends that when we start talking about maybe something that we want to do down the road, you can hear them overthinking and over planning and over trying to strategize around it. And one of the people I'm talking about specifically has a lot less moving parts than I have. Like, no, they don't have any kids. They have a very normal strategic job that they work in. They're not in a relationship. Like, he literally is one that can, and every once in a while he'll do it. He'll drop, and I'm like, "Where are you right now?" He's like, "I'm in St. Martin." I'm like, "Dude, way to go." But there's certain other things that are passions of his that you can watch him overthink and not step forward to do. But when he does do them, that you can just see him light up. It's like his happy place to be in.
Yeah.
And I think very quickly, travel's an easy one, like going to St. Martin, because it's kind of like one of those normal things that everybody tries to get out and travel, and they
Everybody
will plan
goes to St. Martin.
trips. What's that?
That's a normal thing, just going to St. Martin.
Well, not St. Martin. Let's not say Martin, but like to go plan a trip and to go camping, to go do something and get out. I think that's something that a lot of people do. There's another step for a lot of people when it comes maybe to planning like maybe a deeper level trip or something that they really dream about, something that's outside the box that maybe not everybody gets to go do. And the minute that it's outside the ordinary, now we can start to sometimes overthink it. Picking up and moving your whole family down to the beach is not something everybody just goes, "Yeah, let's go do it. We'll just get another job and I'll do this and we'll make this work and we're going to go make that move." A lot of people stay in their environment for a long time, extended period of time. They have conversations of, "Remember the time we thought about moving to the beach? Remember that time we thought about, but we still live in New Jersey?" Like, that can very easily be the story that happens for a long time. Remember the time we talked about racing and how fun that would be? And maybe what if someday we got to go do that? And there's a whole other side of it of, let's figure it out right now. And who knows what this is going to look like and how it's going to come together, but let's go and do this. And it's interesting. That's where life is. Like when you talk about your memories of life, when you talk about the stuff that you are going to probably tell your kids about, your grandkids about someday, it's not about the business that we created. It's not about the people maybe I was able to help in real estate. Believe me, I'm never going to sit down with my kids, my grandkids, and go, "Let me tell you about the person I coached one time in wherever." It's not going to happen. The racing will come up in stories. The beach stuff will come up in stories. There's so many things that will come about, but it's not a lot of times the stuff that we engross ourselves with on a day-to-day basis.
And I think realtors in particular tend to overcomplicate a lot of things. Well, I can't go to even just as small as doing a short travel. I mean, we hear it around an installation, right?
Yeah.
"Oh, I can't go travel for that. I cannot be away from my business from that. I cannot do that."
That's an interview we have to do, Matt. People that have figured out how to travel and sell real estate.
Well, part of it is too, like and I think this is where I get into like, taste your dreams, right? Go and taste these things. And you can bring it down into small little things to be able to go have small experiences. You weren't gone for very long to drive down to Laguna Seca and race on that track, right? That wasn't a long time. And if you're open, and you also had the open mind where you're also drawing things to you because you didn't even know about this. It was a friend who was like, "Hey, by the way, do you want to go race on Laguna Seca?" You're like, "Yeah."
Well, the answer was yes. He's like, "Do you want to know the dates?" I'm like, "Nope."
Well, but that's part of it too. Just being able to say yes. And I think we so often say no to things because we like to overcomplicate them. And so whatever it is, like when you write down your life list, and I think this is a good exercise for everybody, pull out that life list. If you've been to an installation, you've started this, look at that list and ask yourself, can you really not do any of those things within the next 3 months? You can't do any of it. There's something that you might be able to do. Maybe it's not as big and as grandeur as you want to do. For example, like if like on your life list is like, I want to go have lunch in Paris, right? Let's just say, I've never been to Paris, by the way. If you're on the East Coast in the Northeast, getting a direct flight is not that challenging. I don't know what they cost, but I'm sure you could probably get a direct flight and you could go do a weekend and have breakfast in Paris, right? You could go do that. You could probably now, money aside, okay, that probably might be a little bit more. But if you fly coach and everything, maybe it's a few $1,000s. That's a lot.
It's a great story. What made you plan your trip to Paris? I wanted to have breakfast there.
Right. But it could be little things like Instead, what we'll say is, no, I got to plan a 2-week European tour. And that's a lot. That's not, I got to be away from the business and all these things. And it's like, okay, now let's bring it back maybe to something that's maybe a little bit more reasonable in cost, right? Like, I've never been to this national monument. Great. Which weekend do you want to go? Is it driving distance or do you have to fly there? Make it a short thing. Just go experience it. You know what? I've always wanted to ski this mountain. Great. Go ski it. If it's driving distance, you're talking about a few $100s in a lift ticket and some time. If it's a flight, you're talking about a few extra $100 in a flight and a hotel room just to go taste what that is. If you want to drive on a racetrack, open up the Google machine and be like, where can I go drive on a racetrack? Right? There's probably something not that far from you to go do that.
And it's funny too, once you start sharing your dreams with others around you, and this is what I find is really fun. Like, I just had a gentleman just yesterday get a hold of me. He goes, are you going to Laguna Seca on? And he just threw a date out to me of like in October. And I'm like, no. He goes, I thought you loved that track. I'm like, I do love that track. I'm like, but I've got other things also I'm doing right now. Like I've got lined up here, right? That are also my dreams. And I just did that one. Like, that was a huge check the box. It wasn't how many times can I check that box? It was like, that one's done for right now. Super exciting, super, fulfilling. And now there's other things I want to go do. I got other things out there. I did write down here, Matt, I am probably going to work out how many points would it take and what would be the total cost of breakfast in Paris.
Yeah. Because what if you can fly in the night before and leave the next day?
I see a red-eye flight, get in there, breakfast, maybe go walk around the Eiffel Tower.
Let's see.
And then fly home.
I'm gonna just do a little quick. You're
trying to work it up right now. I'm going to come back to everybody. I'm a big point family. We are a big point. Thanks to my wife. I was not a points person. And then my wife was like, okay, we got to get this under control. And my entire world works around points now. So I look at this and go, okay, so if we got points.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm in, man. Maybe me and you. Want to go to Paris?
Yeah, that sounds awesome. We can go make it happen.
We should probably bring the wives.
I mean, these are the interesting things that if you start to think about it, and this is why I think it's important for people to find the small ways to taste their dreams a little bit, because that'll make the business make sense, right? We tend to get stuck into like, I'm just doing these things. And then you wake up one day and you're like, cool, can I go do the things I want to do now? By accident, that can happen, even if you love what you do. And I'm not saying like what you do doesn't matter or anything, but if you're telling yourself, I'm living the dream right now, are you? Are you really, or have you put the blinders on? And you might love what you do. Believe I love what I do. I love doing this stuff, but there's other things that I want to do too. But it could be very easy for me to just put the blinders up and be like, man, I'm living the dream. I live in Charleston. I can go to the beach. I get to like talk to Garrett multiple times a week. I got to coach amazing people around it's wonderful. There's other things though that are there too. And you can easily get trapped with those blinders. And that's what I encourage people to like, hey.
I will throw this out, Matt, that there's certain things that happen in life that I think all of a sudden make you also more aware of it. There's certain people that naturally have the ability of to say yes, go live life, figure out how you can make these dreams happen now. Don't wait for too long. I've been fairly good about it. I know in my world right now, I joke with it openly. Like I am the midlife crisis happening right now. 45 years old makes you all of a sudden start going like, okay, so time spent, time left. What are we doing here? But I will say the biggest impact I have in my life right now is watching my parents and my wife's parents. And they've lived very good lives. They've done a lot of stuff, but also watching the things that they wish they would have done that they haven't done. And both of them, all four of them worked very, very, very hard, put in a lot of time. And Sarah's dad specifically really was a workaholic, and with a large list of what I'm going to do when I have time. And the hardest part for me is watching him right now not be able to do any of those things. And in him sitting back very upset, basically going like, I don't know if I'm ever going to put my feet in the sand ever again. Like, I don't know. And I think I've mentioned that on an episode in the past, but I know for me, like, I look at this world and go, okay, am I probably maybe going to have some of those when I get to that point, because I do dream a lot. I dream big and I throw lots of things on the canvas. Yeah, but I want to minimize it as much as possible. And I think that goes back to, we got to be really good with what we do with our work. We got to show up at the highest level we possibly can show up. We got to bring the most amount of value we can possibly bring when it's time to work, with the reward of getting out and getting a taste of these things that you dream about down the road. You don't have to go big all the way right now. And Matt, this is where I think you were going, which I think is so awesome. You don't have to go big with it right now, but keep that fire lit and go and taste a little bit, because the more you taste it, the more you're going to want it, the more it becomes a passion and a drive. And what maybe right now is you guys getting up in the morning and going and walking on the beach, which is how far from your house?
20 minutes.
Okay. So that may lead to what if we could wake up every morning and we could walk out our back porch and we're on the beach?
Yeah.
Like, this just keeps growing on itself to the point that all of a sudden it's just more motivation and more motivation and more motivation, which allows us to dream bigger then, because maybe at some point it's not a house right there on the beach. Maybe it's somewhere else that's maybe out of the ability to dream right now. But the more you taste it, the bigger you can dream.
You really can. It's looking here, by the way, and I would have to do more extensive research here. But if I were going to go to Paris from Charleston, there are a few stops that do need to be made. But I could, one of the cheapest flights here is showing like $600, $700 round trip. I'd have to spend a night in Paris because there's a time difference, right? But I would be able to get there. Like if you left one day, there'd be about a 24-hour journey to get there, stay a day, and then a bit of a journey back home. But it could do that for $700 plus a night in a hotel. So call it $1,000.
All right. $1,000, breakfast in Paris.
You find a cheap hotel, I guess. You'd have to find a pretty cheap hotel in Paris, I guess.
Well, and then here's the interesting thing, Matt. When you know what the goal is, like you're not planning the perfect trip. That's not what you're planning. What you're planning is a moment that you're going to be sitting at a cafe in Paris with a little cup of coffee, a little cappuccino in your hand, and a baguette of bread, and sitting there and going,
I did it.
I'm here.
I did it. Right? And these are the little things that I just think you can do that here too. Like, you think about people who live in places like New York and all these things where there's really cool things to do that we never do because we take it for granted because that we live there. I mean, I did when I lived in New York. I mean, there were so many things I didn't do. Like, generally, you never been to Top of the Rock? I never been to Top of the Rock until we went back to New York this last fall. And I grew up an hour outside that city, worked in that city for many years, never went up there. Now, granted, it's a major tourist attraction and all this stuff, but it's pretty darn cool when you're up there. It's one of those sites that you're like, hey, looking out at Central Park from the top of a building is pretty darn cool. And it's way better than looking at a photograph of it. So
I'm going to experiment with something, Matt. We're going to circle back around. There's a way of researching all these things, these dreams that we have. And we're going to continue on this breakfast in Paris, which I have this weird feeling is going to happen at some point.
I'm going to challenge everybody. When this podcast goes live, go into the Facebook group. We're going to have this podcast posted. I want to see the dreams that people have in the comments. And we are together going to figure out a way to taste those dreams. Maybe not fully fulfill them, but we're going to figure out a way that we can taste those. So be prepared. Go on Facebook, search the Ninja Selling Podcast, join our group. This thing will go live on, well, you're listening to it, so I don't need to tell you when it goes live. Drop your dream there. We're going to figure out a way to help you taste that. Garrett and I are going to do it.
I love it. We're going to see things like swimming with the pigs in the Bahamas. We're going to see people standing on a glacier somewhere up in Alaska. We're going to see all kinds of crazy stuff.
It's going to be awesome. My wife just texted me a picture of this lady. She's with this developer. She's working on a hotel in Florida. She's like, she's swimming with sharks. And I'm like, is that something she like does? She's like, yeah, I guess you could just kind of go do that in Southern Florida. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. Like that's epic.
All you got to do is jump in the ocean. The sharks will find you.
It's
the food chain.
I was like, is she swimming away from the sharks or
just the way the food chain works?
But Anyway, so do that. I'm so excited. Like, I want to fast forward to when we get to do this. This would be so cool.
I'm excited for it. So everybody who's listening out there, go on the community, put in there under this podcast what your dreams are. And again, this is an idea of tasting these dreams that are probably maybe more obtainable than you think, to be able to experience, even if it's a little piece of it, to ignite the fire that's inside of you, to provide more motivation for being better into the day-to-day world. Matt, great topic, man. I appreciate you bringing this one. To everybody listening, if you want to learn more about Ninja, go to ninjaselling.com. If you want to learn more about coaching, we've got 30 amazing coaches out here that are specialized in Ninja. They all have a background in real estate, and they can help you take your business to where you want to go. You can find that through the Ninja Selling site also. And if you want to be with like-minded people, and if you want to be able to share your dreams with us, go to the community in Facebook, which is the Ninja Selling Podcast. And we look forward to seeing you there. Over 13,000 people now. Matt, thank you, sir. Appreciate these times that we get to spend with each other. So thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. I appreciate it as well. Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.